Dear students, a very warm welcome to you all. Now today we will going to start the actual syllabus of our electronic circuit and the first part of the first unit, that is related to FET family, and only N channel MOSFET we will going to study in detail because it is mentioned in your syllabus. But as per our prerequisites, you are already familiar with that FET family, what is field effect transistor and all that. So the objective of our today's discussion is what is field effect transistor, then the FET family. Now that third objective, again, it is not the part of your syllabus, but being an engineer you should be familiar with the difference between bipolar junction transistor, that is BJT, which you studied in first year, and the field effect transistor. Then we'll directly switch to construction of MOSFET, then its working and various characteristics. So first of all we'll see what is that FET family, or why it is known as a field effect transistor. The name given to that transistor is by field effect because the applied electric field, you already studied it in our prerequisites. Also we discuss the applied electric field to the gate terminal of these family transistors affects or controls the conduction of that device, and that's why it is known as a field effect. Is it? So here I mentioned the applied electric field with the proper polarity at controlling terminal of transistor affects the conduction, and hence the name is given as field effect transistor. Now the family, field effect transistor family, it is basically divided in three subtypes. First one, that is JFET, which you studied in first year, then MOSFET, which we will go on to study, and the last one, that is MESFET. It is not used or not included in your syllabus also. So JFET stands for junction field effect transistor, MOSFET stands for metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, right? Now the JFET, again, it is divided into subtypes as N channel JFET and P channel JFET. Is it? Again, it is not in your syllabus for this subject, and that's why we will not going on to conduct it in detail. Is it? Now the next, that is MOSFET. Now MOSFET, it is divided into two subtypes, that is E MOSFET and D MOSFET. E stands for enhancement type and D stands for depletion type. Is it? Now again, there is no D MOSFET in your syllabus, only E MOSFET is there and its respective applications. So that E MOSFET, again, it is divided into two subtypes as N channel E MOSFET and P channel E MOSFET. Is it? Basically whatever applications are given in your syllabus, all are around this N channel E MOSFET, but being a part of syllabus you have to prepare that P channel E MOSFET also, but no questions will be going to ask on this P channel E MOSFET. Is it? So we'll concentrate on this N channel E MOSFET. So the next slide, that is the difference between BJT and FET. BJT, it stands for what? Bipolar junction transistor. That name itself indicates it is a bipolar device, and field effect transistor, already I told what is meant by that field effect. Now characteristic parameters, first one, that is charge carriers. Already I told, in case of BJT both majority and minority, that is bipolar, as well as we can say as we have seen there are two types of BJTs like NPN and PNP. That means it consists of or whatever current flows through the transistor, that is in case of BJT it is due to both type of charge carrier, that is electrons as well as holes, while in case of field effect transistor only one majority charge carrier and current flows due to only because of that, and that's why it is known as a unipolar. See, this one is bipolar, while FET family of that FET devices are unipolar. Then second parameter, that is thermal runaway. It is most important again. In case of BJT, as there are minority charge carrier, that thermal runaway occurs, which is dependent directly on the temperature, while in case of FET family, that thermal runaway not occurs due to the absence of that minority charge carriers. Then the third parameter is power consumption. In case of BJT it is more due to again minority charge carriers, and in case of FET, as it is a unipolar, that power dissipation or consumption that will be less. Then packaging density, that means how much transistors can be implemented on a single chip, is it? So that is nothing but packaging density. So if that chip is manufactured by bipolar device, then that density will be less. That means a small number of transistors can be accommodated on the single chip, while in case of FET it will be very high. Then input impedance, in case of BJT it is somewhat less, because as we know BJT is a current control device, and that's why there will be somewhat non-zero input current. Then and then that device we can control its conduction, is it? While in case of FET, what we seen, whatever gate terminal voltage we are applying, that is always, or gate and the device, it is always reverse bias, or we can say there will be a SiO2 layer, or we can say there will be isolation, and that's why input current in case of FET family it is almost zero, and that's why FET, it is known as a voltage control device. The applied controlling voltage to the gate terminal, that will be able to control the conduction of this device, and that's why the input current is almost zero in case of FET, while in case of BJT it is non-zero, or we have to keep that non-zero input current, then and then that device will going on to work or conduct, is it? And input impedance is nothing but the applied input voltage divided by input current. Now in this case, as input current is non-zero, there will be somewhat finite input impedance, and in case of FET, as input current is zero, and as I told that input impedance is nothing but input voltage divided by input current, so that denominator term is zero, and that's why the value of that input impedance, it will be infinite, or we can say in general it will be very high. Now we switch to N-channel E MOSFET. The construction is somewhat simple. There is a substrate on which the total device is constructed, and first of all we'll see why it is known as N-type, and what will be the change if it is of P-channel E MOSFET. So in case of N-channel E MOSFET, substrate will be of P-type. That means the majority charge carriers will be holes, is it? So this is the substrate shown in rectangular shape. Now to that substrate, two opposite type of semiconductor, that is N-type, small pieces of that N-type are embedded as shown over here. There is no physical contact between these two N regions. Remember, whatever is present between these two N type of region, there will be a substrate. So this is nothing but a substrate material, is it? So there will be no directly charge flow between that two N regions. If we have to allow the flow of charge carrier, then we have to induce the channel between these two, and that's why this is known as an enhancement. Enhancement stands for to enhance, to induce, is it? Now for external connection through the ohmic contact, the terminals are taken out from these two N type of regions and are known as drain terminal and the source terminal. Basically this device, it is of 4 terminal device. 3 are like drain, source, and one more is there, that is substrate. Generally this substrate terminal, it is always connected to source. In case of few devices, the manufacturer already short circuited these two internally, and that's why the outer terminals are only 3. But in case of few devices, that substrate is also there, so that device is of 4 terminal device. Now there is one layer as shown over here, that is SiO2 layer, which is acting as a good insulator, and above that SiO2 layer, that is insulator layer, there is a polysilicon material which is acting as a gate terminal, this one. So you will observe there is no direct contact between that gate terminal or gate region and the substrate. There is a SiO2 which is acting as a barrier, which is acting as a insulator, is it? Now these symbols, if that source and substrate terminals are internally shorted, already I told, then that symbol looks like this. You will observe that SS, that is substrate, and source, these two are internally connected with each other, is it? While in case of if the device is 4 terminal device, that means there will be a separate substrate terminal for outside connections. Now the arrowhead, the inward arrowhead, it indicates it is a N channel. Remember, if it is of P channel, then that arrowhead will be of outer side, is it? Now the difference in construction, if it is P channel E MOSFET, then the substrate should be of N type, this one, and drain and source region should be of P type. That is the basic difference between these two devices, nothing else. And already I told that symbol, that arrowhead will be towards the outer side, is it? So this is the basic construction of eMOSFET. Now we'll see how it will go on to work. Now as per this various circuit diagrams, what I tried to show here, see that VGG is connected, or for the flow of conduction of this device before going to the actual working. See, already I told what is mean by this enhancement. Enhancement means what? To induce. To induce means what? There should be a channel between these two regions. Then and then there will be a flow of current from external DC source through this device like this, and that current path will be like this. But only when it will be possible, only when there will be a channel of the same category. Same category means what? As drain and source regions are of N type, there should be a path of negative charge carriers. But during construction, what we saying, what is the path between these two regions? The available path is of a P type, that is substrate material, which will not going on to allow the flow of charge carriers through it. And that's why we have to induce that path, that channel, is it? Now how to induce it? To induce that channel, the gate terminal plays its main role. See, this is a gate terminal. By applying a proper polarity with the external DC source to the gate terminal, that channel can be induced, is it? Now see, as already I told, there is a SiO2 layer. That means there will be no flow of current from that external VGG, gate voltage source, towards the channel. Current will not going on to flow, but we can apply the field, is it? So here proper field means what? As the substrate is of P type, there will be a minority of electrons. These are the minority charge carrier, that is electrons. That electrons are to be get attracted over here, and accordingly the potential at the gate terminal should get applied. Now as you know, there is attraction between positive and negative charge carriers. That means whenever you will apply positive potential to the gate, then and then that minority which are of negative type in P type substrate will get attracted and will remain accumulated at the edge of this SiO2 or within that substrate material between these two regions, is it? Now how much should be the value of that VGG so that there will be a non-zero current? See, if that VGG is very small, somewhat minority will get attracted, but that are not capable to handle the current between these two regions, that is drain and source region. So remember, there should be a sufficient VGG so that a sufficient channel will get formed, so that there will be a non-zero current from external DC source, that is VDD, which is connected to drain with respect to source as shown, is it? Now that term, a sufficient VGG, is known as a threshold voltage, that is VT. And that's why here I mentioned if VGG is very small than VT, that means there will be no sufficient channel. The density of accumulated negative charge carriers within these two regions will not be sufficient to flow the current through it, is it? And that's why if that VGG is positive but less than, very small than VT, that's why there will be no flow of current through this device. Now switch to second case. Again, that VGG is smaller than VT, and that's why I mentioned here that ID will remain 0. No current will be on to flow. You will observe a small density or very less density negative charge carriers are accumulated within these two regions by the application of small VGS, voltage at gate to source, by this DC source, and that is nothing but VGG, is it? Remember, VGS is different and VGG is different. VGG is nothing but a DC source. By that DC source, whatever potential gets generated or voltage gets applied across gate and source, that is known as a VGS. So when VGS is less than VT, ID will remain 0 because a sufficient density channel will not going on to form, is it? Now switch to third case. Here I mentioned that VGS, now it is equals to or greater than VT, that is threshold voltage. What is threshold voltage? It is the voltage at which a small amount of current starts to flow through the device, or a sufficient channel, we can say, to have the non-zero ID gets formed, that is nothing but threshold voltage. So that threshold voltage, it is related to gate terminal, VGS. So when that VGS is equals to or greater than VT, you will observe the density of accumulated minority charge carriers within this region, which are absorbed from the substrate material, attracted from the substrate material, is somewhat more as compared to previous cases. Is it? And that's why there will be a non-zero ID. I mentioned here that ID is non-zero. Now, logically, if you observe, whenever you will be want to increase this VGG more and more, that means VGS will be more and more positive, accumulated charge carriers will be more, and that's why the channel capacity to handle the current also will get increased, and that's why we can say current also will get increased. Is it? Now, just imagine if I kept that VGS somewhat greater than VT, and I started to increase this VDD from 0 to onward. As it is a variable, I will be going to change it from 0 to onward. What will be going to happen? There will be a linear increase in current. Is it? That VGS is constant, which is greater than VT. Now keep it constant and vary this VDD from 0 to onward. There will be increase in current, and later on that current will remain constant even if ID is increased. Sorry, VDD is increased. This is nothing but VDD. Is it? On x-axis we will be going to take VDD, and on y-axis we will take ID. Here, the characteristic in detail it is given in the next slide, but here for understanding purpose I will be going to explain. So what I've done here, I kept this VGS somewhat constant and increase this VDD from 0 to onward. So what I observe, there is increase in ID, and later on that ID remains constant. Why ID remains constant? Because whatever is the accumulated charge carrier density, the capacity of that channel gets decided, how much maximum current it can handle. Beyond that, even if the applied voltage is increased, current will not going on to increase, because the channel density, that charge carriers will be going to limit the maximum amount of current. Now, as per our previous discussion, again if I increase this VGG largely and again kept constant, what will going to happen? If I change this VDD again from 0 to onward, again there will be increase in current from 0 to onward like this, and later on again will remain constant. Is it? Now remember, there will be a maximum rating of that VGS given in the data sheet. Beyond that, even if you increase that VGG, no maximum current will going on to occur. Is it? So here, suppose we applied a maximum VGS so that all the minority charge carriers are accumulated over here. That means the channel density will be maximum, and increase this VDD from 0 to onward, current also will get increased, and later on that current will remain constant. Is it? That maximum, at maximum VGS, whatever current you will get, that current is known as a IDSS, drain to source saturated current. Beyond that, current will not be possible, because even if this VGS is increased, channel density will not going on to improve, because already that charge carrier, all minority charge carriers are attracted over here. Is it? So see, the same things whatever we discuss, it is mentioned in the characteristic that we will see later on. But here remember that key point, that is threshold voltage, the level of VGS that results in significant increase in drain current, that means non-zero. Then why the name is given as enhancement? Because physical channel is absent between drain and source. The channel is to be formed or induced or enhanced by the application of gate to source voltage with sufficient level and polarity. This term is also important, polarity. Sufficient level already we discussed, but what about this polarity? See, in previous slide what we seen, that VGS applied, it should be positive. Then and then minority carriers will get attracted. Instead of that, if I place that VGS negative, that means if I connected that gate terminal to the negative potential of that VGG, what will be going to happen? If I increase that VGS negatively, it will not going on to attract the minorities. That means there will be no formation of channel. That channel will not going on to induce. That means even if VGS is non-zero, that means negative and non-zero, ID will remain 0. There will be no flow of current. Now the drain current equation, what we seen, there will be, after that VGS equals to or greater than VT, there will be non-zero ID. Now that ID is not linear. It is defined by this equation. Remember, ID equals to K times VGS minus VT bracket square. Here K, it is the conduction parameter of that device. We'll see how to determine it, or it may be given in the datasheet of that transistor by the manufacturer. Now see, if that K is given, that means that constant is given, or we determine it at any value of VGS, we can define the value of ID by this equation. Is it? Means without actual observing, we can determine the value of ID if we know the value of that conduction parameter from the datasheet as well as threshold value of that transistor. It is also given in the datasheet. What should be the minimum VGS so that ID will be non-zero? That is nothing but threshold voltage. Is it? Now from that, for any value of VGS, we can define how much will be the current through it. Is it? So this is the use of or application of this equation. Now see, whatever things we discuss, the same are shown over here. See here, as per the first curve, what I shown, when VGS is less than VT, when it is less than VT, whatever may be the value of VDS, by increasing that VDD, whatever may be the value of VDS, ID will remain 0. It is on the x-axis. Then VGS1, here we can say that VGS1, it is equals to VT, suppose. Then when VGS equals to VT, a very small density channel will get formed and very small amount of current will be going to flow through that device. Here it is shown as ID1. Is it? That ID1 will be very, very small, if because that VGS1 is equals to VT. Now as you will go on increasing that VGS from VGS1 to VGS2, already I told, again by increasing this VDS, there will be initially increase in current and later on will be going to remain constant because of channel capacity. But that current will be surely greater than that of previous case. That means ID2 will be greater than ID1, like this. So here the last uppermost curve I shown as a VGS max, and relative to that whatever ID will going on to flow, that ID is known as a IDSS, that is drain to source saturated current, maximum current. Is it? Now you will observe, for any curve, what we discussed initially, there is an increasing current and later on that current remains constant. So the region where there is linear increase in ID by increasing VDS is known as ohmic region. Is it? The region where the current remains constant is known as a saturation region, and the region where that current remains 0, that is ID equals to 0, is known as a cutoff region. In case of BJT, the linear region is known as a saturation region, the constant current region is known as active region, and cutoff is same. Is it? So there is no ohmic region in case of BJT, we can say. The linear region of operation is known as a saturation region. In case of FET, where the current remains constant, that region is known as a saturation. That is the basic difference. So there are possible 3 regions of operation, that is ohmic, saturation and cutoff. That already I told. Now one more characteristic, that is transfer characteristic. See, whatever characteristic we discuss, that is in between output voltage and output current, that is VDS and ID. By keeping input constant at various levels, we kept that input level constant as VGS1, VGS2, VGS3, like this. Is it? So this is known as a drain characteristic or output characteristic, as it is in between output voltage and output current, that is VDS and ID. Is it? Now another characteristic is there, that is transfer characteristic. Transfer characteristic means what? It is a characteristic in between controlling and controlled parameter of the transistor. Controlling one is what? VGS, as it is a voltage control device that we discuss. So on x-axis there will be VGS, and on y-axis there will be controlling. Controlling one is what? Output current, that is ID. And that's why on y-axis I again taken as ID. So up to VT, what will going on to happen? The current will remain 0, and after VT there will be increase in that ID, which is defined by that previous equation. Is it? Now again one more important thing, remember the point on the drain characteristic after which the ID remains constant is also known as a pinch off voltage. So here the pinch off voltage, it is related to output voltage. It is the value of VDS after which the output current remains constant. So all these points are nothing but pinch of voltages for that each curve. Is it over here like this? So these are the pinch of levels. Now the next device is P channel. Already I differentiated the difference between that N channel in terms of its construction and symbol. By yourself try to plot or try to draw the construction, try to understand the working, try to plot the drain output characteristic and transfer characteristic, and again try to show all these possible regions of operation. Now to prepare this topic I preferred these reference books, that is Donald and Neiman, Electronic Circuit Analysis and Design, 2nd edition, Boylston and Neshelke, Electronic Devices and Circuit. These two books are very important to study, are very good books to study the MOSFET or FET family. And whatever the diagrams I shown, that is constructed by myself. So these are the references, and in summary, you might have understood what is meant by that FET family, difference between that BJT and FET, construction, characteristic, working, etc. So hope so you might have understood it properly. If you have any doubt, that will be going on to clear during our live lectures. So thank you very much.